Good evening, you're watching The Urban Debate with me, Avni Raja. On the show tonight, I'll get you the latest developments combined with expert analysis on the day's biggest stories. Our top focus as AIADMK implodes, the Jaya legacy battle gets bigger. Will the party be able to resurrect itself? We'll get you details also about the 5G rollout and the timeline. When can you start actually using 5G? We'll also put the spotlight on Virat Kohli's revelations about his struggle with mental health and talk about the pressure that players face in the world of cricket. And a very special and exclusive conversation with cricket legend Ian Botham also coming up. But let's first turn our attention to the top story. The battle for Jaya's legacy is exploding. The latest order by the Madras High Court stays the resolutions by the AIADMK, where dual leadership was struck down. This effectively brings things back to square one as far as the tussle between EPS and OPS is concerned. Meanwhile, OPS is now attempting to extend an olive branch, saying that for the sake of the party, differences should be set aside and the party should come together. OPS invited Sasikala and TTV Dinakaran, who could be part of the unification. Now, EPS has said that primary members and functionaries wanted a single leader. EPS also said that he can't work together with OPS, calling him someone who only wants power. But the big question is whether it is even possible for EPS and OPS to work together after all that has happened, and what will it actually take for this party now to emerge from this crisis. Let me first go across to my colleague Dharani, who's joining us here on the broadcast. Dharani, obviously there is a lot that has gone on between EPS and OPS. OPS is trying to extend an olive branch here. But take us through the latest developments as far as what's happening in court.
Well, the EPS camp has gone for another appeal. In fact, they have put a petition in front of the Madras High Court challenging yesterday's verdict. Yesterday's Justice G. Jayachandran of the Madras High Court ordered that the July 11 General Council meeting is invalid. In fact, he told that all the resolutions and decisions that were taken during the July 11 General Council meeting, becomes nullified. So now the EPS camp has gone to the Madras High Court again, challenging this particular verdict. So we are hoping that this will come for hearing this coming Monday. So definitely the EPS camp, they are not ready to come out of the legal battle yet. They want the legal battle to continue. They want the battle to continue as long as they get the verdict in their favor. So as I told, the legal battle is very much on between EPS and OPS. So we'll have to see how this is going to unfold, and this case will most probably be heard this coming Monday. But when we talk about the tussle between EPS and OPS in the ground, it is very clear that OPS wants a compromise. He wants the dual leadership to continue. In fact, he has extended an olive branch, appealing to the EPS camp to forget all the difference of opinions, to forget all the bitterness that have been going on for the past 2 months. But unfortunately, the Edappadi Palaniswamy camp is not ready for a compromise. EPS has also made it very clear that he will never be able to work together with OPS again. He called him a traitor. He called him someone. He called OPS as someone who only wants power, and he also accused OPS of maintaining a silent and secret relationship with the DMK. So we are again looking at the two leaders, EPS and OPS, in two different directions with two different points of views. So we'll have to see how this is going to unfold. But one important angle we have to see in this is that OPS not only invited Edappadi Palaniswamy, he also invited Sasikala and TTV Dinakaran to be part of the unified, AIADMK. So this clearly indicates that he has a soft corner for TTV and Sasikala. He wants them to be part of the party again. So we'll have to see how this goes, with the cadre, because most of the functionaries and cadre are with EPS now. So with them backing EPS, we'll have to see how this is going to unfold.
Absolutely, Dharani. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us. But let's bring in some analysis now. Gokul Chandran, political analyst, is joining me, as well as Muralidharan S, who's also a political analyst here on the broadcast. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us. Mr. Gokul Chandran, if I can come to you first. Obviously, at this point in time, there is some sort of relief coming in for OPS, but he clearly has no choice but to push the dual leadership position, because that's the only way he can maintain some semblance of power in the party. What is your own assessment of the situation?
Good evening. See, as you rightly said, Mr. OPS himself, he doesn't have much clout within the party. See, when Ms. Jayalalitha was there, whenever there needed a chief minister, Mr. OPS was there under the shadow of Ms. Jayalalitha always. he has never functioned independently, and so there is a handicap actually, because Mr. OPS cannot function independently, and he needs support of the other leaders and party men for him to function. But in the case of EPS, he's a bit more of a mass leader. He has a mass base, though not all over Tamil Nadu. At least in his region, he has a base, little bit of base. So obviously, the cadres and other leaders are mostly with EPS. And don't forget that EPS was the chief minister for a long time, and so automatically the bees will be getting attracted to the Queen bee, and that's how things are moving in AIADMK now. But I don't think this is going to end anywhere now very soon, because if you take both the leaders, other words, any leader of ADMK doesn't have his own mass base all across Tamil Nadu. Nobody is a pan Tamil Nadu leader. Everybody has their own region, a little bit of Dharmaburi, little bit of Coimbatore, little bit of Madurai. That's how the leaders are. Other than their own region, nobody has a mass base. So even there is a split. Even if there is a split in the party, both the parties which are getting splitted is going to get withered away slowly, and they might be absorbed by DMK and all other parties. But the most important thing now for both this faction is somehow to retain the two-leaf symbol. As long as the two-leaf symbol are there, they can survive for some period or during the next election, because usually a generation votes for two-leaf. They doesn't care who is EPS, who is OPS or nothing. They only know MGR, Jayalalitha and two-leaf symbol. So
Yes.
people will be voting for two-leaves. But if the election commission doesn't give the two-leaf symbol to either of the faction, then that would be the end of ADMK forever in Tamil Nadu. So one faction will go towards DMK, and the other faction might be absorbed by the BJP, because BJP is a big player and they are behind the scenes of whatever is happening within ADMK now. So as we always know, they have that knack of breaking
Right.
parties and making it absolutely zero, so that they can get in there. Now there is
Right.
a vacant vacuum of opposition in Tamil Nadu, and the BJP sees this as an opportunity. So if the ADMK is finished, so automatically the vacuum can be filled by BJP, and that's what BJP is also trying. So they will also try all the tricks in the books so that ADMK doesn't get unified. So we have to wait and see. But most probably, I think with very less leaders, very less popular leaders in ADMK, that's the end road for ADMK.
Okay. Mr. Muralidharan, do you agree with that this is the party is not going to be able to come out of this entire mess and crisis which has been going on ever since Jayalalitha's death?
I don't agree with him 100%. Yes,
Okay.
there are instances which has gone bad for the party. But what you need to understand, there are two things. One is the court battle. The court battle is definitely, if you go and see, there was a single judge verdict and there's a bench verdict. Now, bench verdict is always contradicting with the single judge verdict, and single judge is contradicting with the bench verdict. So there are a lot of inconsistency in the court itself. Apart from all that, the bench has recognized EPS as a leader. That's why they gave him the key for the, office on the 25th of July, after whatever, all the riots which happened, mainly due to Mr. OPS's faction. Now, apart from all that, you also have to consider that 190 general council members out of 2,655 have voted in favor of Mr. EPS. Another lacuna in the whole thing is it's the tenure of the coordinator and the joint coordinator, EPS and OPS, that is also end. So if current judge says, you go and, convene another meeting and redo the entire process again, because the previous process was allowed by the bench, okay, on the 11th of July, if I'm right, they allowed them to conduct the meeting and they allowed them to, go ahead at the meeting was scheduled at 9:15. The verdict was delivered at 9 a.m., 15 minutes gap, and so the court was very much aware that EPS is going to conduct this meeting and whatever is going to happen there, it's It's all legal. So these are things which you need to look into. So if you look into all these and see the majority support for EPS, and he is going to win this battle. This is how it looks like.
Okay.
Apart from that, now let's take hypothetical situations like what if Mr. OPS, Dinakaran, Sasikala, all of them get together and they try to attack Mr. EPS. Now that will become detrimental to the party. Everyone knows, because the party has gone through this already. I mean, for the last several years, it's been happening. Thanks to BJPs to a certain extent, who've been being the catalyst to all this. So the cadres are very clear. The supporters are also very clear. Supporters and cadres, they say, the party is supreme. It's not the individual. For example, OPS, Dinakaran and Sasikala, they belong to one caste called Devar community. Mukulathur we call them. And Mr. Edapadi belongs to Kongunadu. He's a Gounder. I mean, it's a different community. But they are equal in strength. But you'll be shocked to hear that many supporters of EPS are Devars also. So actually, the OPS, because of the tainted image of Sasikala, because Dinakaran could not score in the last elections, he could not make an impact. Where EPS, the last 1 year of his governance, it's still better than the Stalin government which is happening today. So considering all this, people and the supporters and the cadres of ADMK are with EPS. So that's the reason. And the court is also, I'm sure the court is going to, do a, introspect the whole thing. What has happened from, I think it started with June 23rd. The first time they allowed to the GC to go ahead at 23rd, but they said no leadership will be elected. So right from that day till date, the court also will introspect all this and they'll come to a conclusion what is good for the party. I think court has one time, I think they came out openly and said that these are party matters. You are a democratically elected party and a party with a strong set of guidelines and rules. And you have the ability to select your own leader, which according to EPS they have done already, EPS faction. So I think it's going to be a victory to EPS, but the thorn in the flesh, like OPS, Dinakaran, and Sasikala, that will continue. So this is my opinion.
Okay.
And so I think it will be EPS will be victorious. Now, adding salt to this will be BJP. Now, BJP would love to take the ADMK vote share. And to grow. But if they grow, taking ADMK's vote share, they will still lose to DMK. DMK will remain in the as a party, they will remain ruling Tamil Nadu for another couple of decades if that happens, because it's BJP has to grow eating into DMK share and not ADMK. So ADMK and DMK are equally balanced. So if BJP is going to grow at the expense of ADMK, that's detrimental for both of them. Both of them will go down.
Right, but that will also mean BJP gets a foothold, the much longed foothold that BJP wants in Tamil Nadu. That will sort of come in if they get to eat into the vote share of the AIADMK. But Mr. Gokul, does it then boil down to what you were saying earlier with regard to simply the symbol? Because from what Mr. Muralidharan was also saying, the supporters are also, you could have supporters jumping camp, jumping to either side. It's extremely deeply entrenched as far as even the supporters of EPS and OPS is concerned.
Yeah, before answering your question, I would like to make a remark regarding the BJP's foothold in Tamil Nadu. See, if ADMK hadn't aligned with BJP during the previous assembly election, then today's political scenario in Tamil Nadu would have been totally different. Yeah, certainly DMK would have come to power, but then DMK wouldn't have got this much of seats, and I am very sure that ADMK, without BJP, if they had contested, would have gained more seats. Just because the baggage of BJP in the ADMK lost many seats. And also the other factor which needs to be considered is, though we cannot disregard TTV Dinakaran. In many seats, if you take the data, DMK won because TTV Dinakaran ate ADMK votes and ADMK couldn't win then. If AMMK, that is the TTV Dinakaran's party, hadn't contested the elections, then ADMK would have won that seats. So even now things have not gone bad. If they are together, if EPS and OPS are together and the cadre is together, still they can put up a fight. With the tool, as you answering your question, with the tool symbol in hand, with the legacy of Ms. Jayalalitha and Mr. MGR, the ADMK can still survive if they remain together, because even though they don't have a pan Tamil Nadu leader, they have strongholds in each and every district of Tamil Nadu. So, except for maybe one or two districts, the ADMK has a presence in every district. So, what they need is a coordination. See, you cannot have one leader. In this case, OPS is right actually. You cannot have Mr. EPS as a sole leader and you cannot expect ADMK to grow, because EPS doesn't have that much of clout all over Tamil Nadu. So even the caste factor, as Mr. Muralidharan rightly pointed out, the caste factor plays a very much important role here. A Gounder EPS and they were OPS, and they have to come together. They have to stick together, as OPS has suggested. If only a joint leadership for ADMK can rescue ADMK from current crisis.
Right. And finally, let me also bring in Mr. Muralidharan as well on this issue here. In terms of what exactly do you believe that it's going to take to bring EPS and OPS? Is there anything rather that EPS and OPS can come together for?
I think we should listen to the statement of EPS, which was, I think, released a couple of days back. Sorry, after this verdict. What he said is, a person who has rioted and destroyed our own, party office does not stand any morality to come back and, claim a position. So there is no way he's going to come back, and no way we're going to take him, and there's no way we're going to align with Sasikala also, who has a tainted image. So that much is very clear. So one side, I agree with Gokul that the BJP was a baggage which I think ADMK carried, and because of that they lost, I think, 3% almost close to minority vote share. The minority vote share played a very important role in the last election. So the moment ADMK sheds BJP, all these minority votes will come back to ADMK, because Stalin is not doing anything great. If you see, Stalin is trying to, he's trying to warm into BJP, and he's trying to meet the Prime Minister more often than what he had done in the past. And he's been resisting Prime Minister, but now I think he's trying to get pally with them. So that will definitely go against ADMK, and I think all those minority votes will come back to ADMK. ADMK will remain strong, provided they can just come out of this, whatever the tussle which is happening right now.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us and taking us through your perspective on this entire battle between EPS and OPS. We, of course, have to wait and see how this pans out going forward.